Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back dear learners to this course on architectural thesis. My name is Dr. Vishal Chettry and I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Architecture, Planning and Design at IIT BHU Varanasi. So in this particular presentation we will focus on your life that is after the thesis. So what steps or what are the strategies that you should adopt after your thesis is over so that you land up in a very successful career ahead. So with that let us now look into the presentation and try to see how can you develop your skills or how can you orient yourself after the thesis is over, and what are the different avenues that are possible after the successful completion of your thesis. So the content of this presentation includes a recap to what was learnt in the previous presentation, then some brief idea about preparing for the life that is there ahead of the architectural thesis, that is after your 10th semester. Once your BArch is over, what are things that are there in your hand and how you can make a successful career after this thesis, after the BArch is over. Then portfolio development and career pathways, converting thesis work into professional portfolio, preparing the thesis portfolio for job applications, understanding the different avenues after BArch, networking and showcasing thesis, and then the conclusion, that is the overall learning for this from this presentation, along with some wrap up activities that are suggested at the end of this presentation. So now to recap with what was learned in the previous presentation, we focused on the tips that are generally shared with the students so that they come up with some better presentation on the day of jury. So the first thing that was suggested was related to on some strategies that will help you master the jury presentation, which will help you clearly and confidently communicate your architectural ideas related to your project to jurors, showcasing expertise and a vision on for that project. So structuring the presentation is essential. So always think of how you are going to speak on the day of the jury with so many sheets as well as a physical model, and also if you have a walkthrough. So how are you going to showcase all these three things along with the thesis report that is there with you. So use visual aids and layout appropriately. Oral presentation tips matter a lot, no matter how much hard work you do, but if you are not effectively communicating those things to the juror, you won't be able to come up with good grades in your architectural thesis. So incorporating sustainability and other contemporary issues or challenges in your thesis always attracts interest in your presentation. Practice and preparation includes rehearsals, building confidence, avoiding common mistakes. So these are necessary so that you avoid common mistakes that students generally do during the presentation. So to prepare the students after the thesis is over, because that thesis is not the final outcome of your thesis, of your entire BArch curriculum, and then you are you have completed a milestone, that is it, and then there is altogether different set of challenges that are lying ahead once your BArch is over. So what are those challenges? How can you make your career successful towards there are different avenues that are available after your BArch is over. So what are those avenues? But based on your interest, how can you land up in a successful career trajectory? So that all is necessary to understand through this. I'll try to make you understand about those scenarios through this presentation. So reflect on your thesis journey, identify what the thesis taught to you, what are different skills and design ideas that you could develop, and also the critical gaps. So because this is the time after your thesis is over, try to work on those gaps, and if there are some shortcomings that you could find out during your thesis and you somehow managed that during thesis, but then you have now at least 2-3 months before you join any company or before you go for any masters or before you start your own architectural firm, try to develop or try to work on those gaps, and then document the process to make the portfolio for your work, so that you start working towards the portfolio development, because that is what you will carry to for different interviews or to showcase your work at different forums. Then the portfolio and presentation skills, because this is a narrative showcase of design thinking, so refine it into a concise professional portfolio, cutting away excess process clutter but retaining the essence. So there are many things that we mention in architectural thesis submissions, but when it comes to preparing a portfolio, not every detail is essential. So what are those important or key elements of your thesis that you have to retain? So try to figure out and then add it into your portfolio. So develop both visual clarity and verbal clarity, as these are invaluable during interviews and during competitions presentation. So career pathways after thesis includes professional practice, or you may go towards research and higher studies, or you can work for some competitions and exhibitions based on the work that you have done. Then there are alternative careers. If you are interested in designing, then you can pursue product design, or if you are interested in other design related streams, so you can also explore those domains. And then if you are interested in some GIS and spatial work based on the work that you've done in your thesis, so then try to look for the similar domain. And then likewise for project management or even policy and development sectors also. So there are the different avenues that are there after you graduate. So think on the interest that you have and then join that particular domain. Skill upgradation is also a very good opportunity that is possible after you complete your thesis, because you have that buffer time with you. So try to work on those aspects and try to improve yourself on the things that you think you were lacking during architectural thesis. Then the mindset for transition: accept that the thesis was not the final outcome but a springboard. That means the real world constraints, that is there may be many real world constraints that you have considered for your thesis. So try to work on those aspects, and based on the input that you receive from the review examiners or jury members, try to incorporate that and add that in your portfolio. So stay adaptable. While thesis was just a solo vision, it was based on your single idea, but when it comes to a project, a real life project, so it involves multiple stakeholders. So you should always be a person who is willing to do a teamwork, who also like works towards negotiation and pragmatism approaches. So keep a learning oriented mindset, as every project enriches differently from academic design freedom. So that also is important. Then sustaining passion: many architects generally they lose interest after the thesis because of the burnout. So keep feeding curiosity by visiting different places, by documenting different buildings that you visit during your travel, do sketching or do historical research about the different buildings that you see during your visits. So consider writing about your visits. Try to publish those insights in different digital media platforms, and also so that you connect the academic knowledge with that of the practice that you or that to the real life scenario. Remember, architecture is not only about buildings but also it is about people, culture and environment. Then the next thing is regarding portfolio development, because every different place that you go after your BR, you are supposed to carry your portfolio with you, so that the work that you have done in these 5 years can be showcased, and the person who is sitting on the other side of the table can evaluate your work. Because in architecture, it's not just the marks that you secure in each semester. It is also the quality of work that you produce through different submissions like design, building services, building construction, or working drawing, or interior design, or any other such interesting subjects. So what are the outputs, and how have you developed yourself, or what are the learnings that you could gather from different subjects. So that is what is evaluated through your portfolio. So these things have to be kept in mind at the time of preparing your portfolios. Then career pathways after thesis. So the first is traditional practice. As soon as you graduate, after a few months you are given a COA license. So by using that license you are free to practice in India. Research and higher studies based on the interest as well as the topic that you have selected for your thesis or for your dissertation. You might be inclined to pursue your higher studies in that field. So look for colleges, look for degree programs that may align with your interest. Interdisciplinary roles like skills that translate into fields like graphic design, project coordination, that is project construction if it is related to urban planning, accessibility consulting, visualization, or entrepreneurship. Try to join those related roles. Competition and exhibition, so wherever you get opportunity to display your work, so try to utilize that opportunity. Public sector and consultancy, roles in urban policy, urban development authorities, sustainability consulting. So you can explore this sector and also prepare for different exams that are there for these sectors. Then converting the thesis work into professional portfolio development. So you have to select and curate the thesis material, because as explained there are number of sheets, too much quantum of work, but what to retain and what to discard, you have to now start thinking about that. So accordingly see what are the key elements of your thesis, incorporate that into your portfolio, and remaining can be a part of your thesis compilation. So if anyone is interested to look into your thesis, so then you can hand over them the A4 size like sheets that you have taken for your architectural thesis. So you can, the ones that are there in A0 or A1, that can be printed in A4 also, and keep that with you wherever you visit for different purpose related to job or related to exhibition or for competition. So showcase them their work, and then this is how you create contact and then develop your skills. Then visual storytelling and layout. So this also has to be kept in mind. The ideas that were discussed during portfolio development, try to utilize that in your thesis portfolio also. Translating academic content for professional context, so reframe text heavy content, and make your submissions or make your reports in such a way that it is more interesting and visually appealing to the person who is there. Emphasize contribution, methodology, and outcome that you have adopted. Create digital and print ready version for your architectural portfolio. The action steps that you can take is curate, that is select 3 to 5 key pages, organize the structure of the narrative, refine, that is edit or for clarity, simplicity, and professional polish of your of the entire portfolio is necessary. Update your work, then share in different platforms like different social media platforms like LinkedIn, or maybe specific specific websites where you can showcase your work, and then you can develop contact with the person who are relevant to that field. When preparing a thesis portfolio for job application and all, the same approach has to be selected. Select 3 to 4 key elements of your thesis. Keep description concise. Use a clear and minimal layout. Credit collaborative work accurately. So if there is any help that you have taken from your team members, so then accommodate that into your the entire presentation or your report, and then also acknowledge them. Prepare both, that is full 20-30 pages portfolio, and abbreviated one also 10-15 pages, depending on the requirement of that interview or of that discussion. You are in a ready position to come up with the portfolio. So portfolio for higher studies, so in that case showcase the thesis project's conceptual depth, research framework, because this is what is expected. Include process documentation, organize academic work chronologically, highlight publications, presentations, and also try to document different places that you have visited regarding your thesis work. So if you have taken part in different exhibitions or different competitions related to your thesis work, try to document that and then also include that in your portfolio for higher studies. So portfolio for competition, so prioritize storytelling, clearly articulate the design intent, adhere to competition guidelines, and then show adaptability and creativity by including the bonus research, that is include site studies, include case studies, detail when and where have you visited, what were the criteria that you have selected to select the case studies or maybe the site. So there has to be in-depth discussion on these aspects of your thesis. Then now let us look into understanding the career path that is related to architecture. So the first and foremost is being the practice, that it is the most common path as you get your COA license within 2-3 months, or depending on sometimes it may take more time if there is any lack of communication between your institute and that with the COA headquarters that is in Delhi. So depending on that your COA license may arrive and then you can utilize that for any real life projects. So that is the traditional method, traditional field where just after you graduate you can easily start your career. Next is research and academia. So if you are interested in pursuing further studies, so based on your portfolio or based on different entrance exams like GATE or maybe different interviews that are generally conducted here in India for School of Planning and Architecture, or it may be for other institutes also. So you can appear for the interview by also carrying your portfolio with you during interviews. You can showcase that and then explain your work that you have done. So also related to avenues like urban planning and development, urban planners shape cities at systematic scales. So in their offices also, or in municipal offices, or maybe at state urban development department or state PWD offices, there are always some states some vacancies for architects. So you can appear for these exams and then shape your career in that direction. And also there are some your public sector enterprises which always look for architects. For example, Airport Authority of India, or maybe Central Public Works Department. So and also Indian Army. So in these different sectors, architects there are few positions available for architects to join. So you can explore these avenues and then prepare yourself for the career in these directions. So policy and regulatory roles. So architects also shape policy work, so influence building code. So you can look for such opportunities. Conservation and heritage management. So that also is one sector where you can also look for your career. Then emerging and interdisciplinary fields like digital fabrications, parametric design. So these are some upcoming fields where you can explore your career for the future. Then next is networking and showcasing the thesis. So it is possible if you take part in different exhibitions and different competitions. So displaying thesis in local, national and international exhibitions like COA annually organizes thesis exhibition. So take part in those exhibitions, or IIA chapter, that is Indian Institute of Architects, at all their regional chapters they organize competitions for the students. So take part in those competitions, send your entry and exhibit your work. So through that possibly you may create network with the professional architects in the field, and then you can secure your job through those different platforms. So conferences also is one good avenue, because through that the academia side can be aware of your work that you have done, or you can also network yourself in front of learned members of academia. So possibly that also may create opportunity for you. Then digital platforms like Behance, Ask Daily, LinkedIn and other websites. You can display your portfolio and then do the networking. Regularly sharing high quality visuals, project summaries in these platforms can attract different stakeholders towards you. So you can explore those options also. So to conclude what we have learned in this presentation, so reflecting on thesis journey builds clarity on skills and future goals. So strong portfolio is necessary for so that the documentation of the work that you have done can be showcased effectively. Continuously upgrading skills is necessary. Adopt a flexible mindset. Keep passion alive through creativity and lifelong learning attitude. Develop portfolios for jobs, higher studies and competitions differently, because the context in all these three sectors are very different. So your portfolio one portfolio doesn't work for all these three different sectors. So if it is a job, so then much detail about the work that you have done or the sheets that you have completed is necessary over there. If it is in higher studies, so the approach has to be highlighted. What was the process that you adopted, and document the entire process more effectively in this the particular sector. So prepare both detailed and concise portfolio depending on the need. Understand varied architectural career fields that are possible, and accordingly start preparing or working towards those career fields. So network actively through exhibitions, conferences and online platforms, so that you are in contact with the right people who will be helping you in shaping your career. So these are some activities that you can complete after this presentation is over, and then some resources which can help you understand more on what we have just now discussed. So in our next presentation, I will try to showcase you the summary of the entire course on architectural thesis. So I will try to give you some important inferences derived from each of this presentation, and then we will conclude this course in our next presentation. So with this, I would like to thank you for your patience listening, and I hope these career opportunities and different the future that is there after thesis is clear to you, and now you can decide on in which direction you want to prepare yourself, and then you want to work towards achieving that aim. So I hope this presentation was useful in that context, and thank you for your patience listening.